Hi, I'm Jennifer Gould from the Neighborhood Design Center. I'm here today live at the Parren Mitchell House at 828 North Carrollton on the edge of the Upton and Harlem Park communities. I'm so excited to show you our 4,000th project. The Parren Mitchell House is a circa Civil War era magnificent mansion townhouse right across from Lafayette Square Park, which is right across the street from us. When we go in, we're going to meet with Delegate Branch, who was Parren Mitchell's special assistant in the 80s, as well as being a leader in the Maryland Black Caucus. We're also here with Arlene Fisher, who's the president of this neighborhood association, Wanda Best, who's the president of the Upton Planning Committee, who's in charge of restoring this house, and Quinn Evans' team, who's our architectural leaders on the restoration. Let's go inside and check it out. Good morning, everybody, or I guess it's afternoon now. So I'd love to take a moment and have you all introduce yourself and why you're part of this community, why you're part of this project, what your association with the house and with Congressman Mitchell is.
Hi, I'm Delegate Branch from the 45th District over in East Baltimore. I'm a very good friend of Parren. I work with Congressman Mitchell. And it is extraordinarily interesting to be back in this home that I spent so much time in with him, working and discussing different pieces of legislation and even picking him up because I was actually the driver and working with him. So it's just a pleasure to be with you guys and for me to share what I can about this miraculous guy and definitely strong leader. So, again, I'm just here to help in any way I can, and I will pass this on.
Great. And we're also here today with Arlene Fisher, who's the president of this community.
I'm president of the Lafayette Square community, and I've known Parren Mitchell for almost the same amount of time. When I went to Morgan in the 70s, he was my political science professor. And that was before a lot of, the politics. And then, when he moved into the neighborhood, he participated and, was, very gracious. You could see him sitting on the steps talking to young people, whatever, So, Lafayette Square has been here since the Civil War. In fact, this was the Civil War, hospital for the, let's see, what is this from the South, from the North, yeah, Union Army. And, it was fenced in, and any African Americans, if you wanted to be free, once you made it through the fence, the Federals, they couldn't get you. So a lot of them came up here and stayed, but that was before all of these houses. This was all parkland from Fremont Avenue down to Calhoun.
There were a few of the houses present in an old drawing that I saw, including this one.
It has been. Yes, has been.
Just a few houses, though.
Yeah. Yes.
And we're also here today with Wanda Best, who's the director of the Upton Planning Committee, who's leading the restoration of this house.
Right. I'm Wanda Best, the executive director of the Upton Planning Committee. And I met Parren Mitchell when I was about 16, 17 on the Hill as a 4-H'er. And I remember having tea with him in the Congressional Black Caucus tea room. And that included Barbara Jordan, Shirley Chisholm, Yvonne Burke. So this is full circle for me in leading this project. Had no idea I'd be here at this age. Won't say what that is.
Amazing. And also in the room, we have the Quinn Evans team, Nikita, Anat, and Ian, who are helping with all the technical expertise that will be necessary to make this restoration possible.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, why don't we start with Anat? She'll do it.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Anat Renan. I'm part of our Quinn Evans team. Quinn Evans and formerly Joe Ben Holback here in Baltimore. We've done a lot of work in the city on old and historic buildings, and this one is really a jewel and a gem, and we're super excited to be working with the community on the project. We'll get into a little more detail as we walk through, but we're going to look at 2 phases of work. And we have a fantastic team with us in addition to just the architects.
Absolutely. I'm Nikita Reed. I am an architect and project manager at Quinn Evans. And the team that is supporting all of this work is amazing. And so we have Onyx Structural Engineering doing structural. We also have TAI doing MEP engineering, KCW doing civil, Precision Property Management helping us with laser scanning. So we are really bringing in a lot of expertise to make sure that this project is turns into the gym that it used to be. We're also very excited to get heating and cooling back in this building.
And hi, I'm Ian McPherson. I am a staff designer working with Anat and Nikita. I'm really excited to be engaged in this really key piece of Maryland and American history. And we're excited to look into potential funding sources as well. We'll be looking at the fact that this property is not individually listed. However, it is within a National Historic District. So there'll be a lot of exciting sort of more regulatory side to engage with as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody, for that introduction.
Whose idea was it to make this a museum?
I think that would be
It was
It was mine.
Yeah.
You want to tell a little bit about that origin story?
You know, I drove by this building for years, and I finally made contact with the owner who has a restaurant in McLean, Virginia, and she boarded it up because she fed Parren Mitchell, and she thought it was too important to just let anybody get it. So I wanted to do something to honor him. And we started that before somebody took the HVAC. But, you know, this is timely. We can really do it right. You know, I think he's just so important. You know, when you talk about small business being the backbone of economics in the U.S., and he started that. So it's time.
Very good.
Thank you.
Applaud that.
Yes. Eileen, would you like to share anything about the history of the neighborhood before we start on the house?
Well, the history, Harlem Park, this is Lafayette Square, but it's in a community called Harlem Park. And Harlem Park has been in existence since the 1800s. We've got a lot of, it used to be called church squares, because you have St. James, Metropolitan, St. John's, Emmanuel churches here. And a lot of the people moved up here. My great grandparents owned the home where I lived at somewhere as an infant. The first place I came was here. And, most of the homes, if you're seeing, they're being, updated, rehab. Really, they're just putting a new dress on them. And we're having a lot of developers come in to work with the community association that meets monthly, to do the designs. But the park is our main thing. And the park was here since the Civil War. So it's a main option as you take a look at the whole community.
It's just interesting that he would move here. And I don't know if he knew all that history.
You don't know the history why he moved here?
I know that he lived on Madison
He also
Street.
lived in one of these houses.
And
he got evicted. Who is family? Okay. He lived in one of the houses that were on, that's on Carrollton Avenue. And my understanding was his family was evicted, and he said in his mind he was always going to come back. And the house that he lived in and was evicted from was torn down. One of the houses torn down. So when this one became available, and where it's located, and it's one of the largest ones on this area, and it also has a history of being one of the places for the Underground Railroad. There's down in the basement, there's a little spot where people could hide. And so he came back to purchase this house to move in when he was moving into the Congress, so.
well, I know when he was over on Madison Street, he lived there for some years. He was in Congress then. But I know when he talked to me about moving over here, he just fell in love with the house. One, because it was large and huge, and it was in a community that he said he used to live in. But he never shared the story that you just shared with me, his family and all, but he said he used to live in the neighborhood.
Yes.
But certainly this house had so much character to him, he just could not pass it up. And he loved churches. Ministers really looked upon him like one of them. And he wanted to be near them as well. And this being, they called Church Square. Right. He knew every minister around here, including Macedonia Church. Yes. He was friendly with that pastor. So he knew all of them guys, and he loved West Baltimore. I'm from East Baltimore, but he loved West Baltimore. Trust me. And so I just thought I'd bring that up. When
a lot of the civil rights meetings he had a lot of the civil rights meetings when Baltimore was going through the change, I say, were held right in here because this was a large place. And then he could also invite people as they were coming from the south to the north to stay here. Because it's a huge house. It really is if you go down. Yes.
Can we look at some of the other amazing rooms? I think we're in the parlor right now, which has a lot of features that you'll see in grand Baltimore parlors, especially things like these pier mirrors and the double height windows and the very high ceilings and gorgeous plaster moldings. Marble fireplaces with hand-carved details, a lot of Victorian details that you'll see, especially flowers and Asian elements that really had these romantic tales that all Victorians would have associated with details like this. So it really gives that grandeur that I think he really felt was appropriate for his being, and also to host people, right? And I think that legacy of hosting here, like I'm sure both of you can remember incredible times that people gathered in this room.
He never had much of a crowd in his house. He was pretty much a private guy.
Let's check out the dining room.
He wasn't the type that in a crowd. He had meetings here with the leaders, but he was not pretty on the square.
Maybe Nikita, you want to share a little bit about the details here in the dining room?
Sure. And so one of the things that I wanted to point people's attention to, so I'm about 6 feet tall. And you can see how big this doorway opening is above us. Typical doors are about 6 feet 8 inches. This is a much bigger and grander opening. The space inside of this room, so we have still the radiators that are here, but then we also have these really very cool interior shutters on all the windows, where you could actually block out a lot of the lower light. You could leave the upper ones open if you wanted to have some natural light still, but more privacy. What other amazing things? So,
I love the stove.
yes, the stove over here. It's very cool. And so the house has a number of these still intact, which is amazing. And so we'll be looking at ways to restore them and incorporate them into the next phase. And so, one other thing to point out real quick. So one of the trim that you see on the top of the door frame here is repeated along the majority of the trim around the house. It's just one of those beautiful details that you don't quite get in new construction. And one of the reasons why we love working on historic buildings.
Awesome. Thank you. Wanda, maybe as we move, we could go. I was amazed to hear your stories about the kitchen changing places and all the experiences you had, like coming back into the place and how you helped them store things downstairs and everything. Should we go back and you can reshare that story a little bit? I was just like blown away.
Well, as Arlene mentioned, there's a sub-basement here. So you can go down to one basement level, and then there's another basement level under that. And when I was originally called, first thing I asked her about was, were those loudspeaker systems still down there that I put there in the sub-basement? She said that they were, or that they are here. So I was amazed that they would still be around, and whoever purchased a house or over the years that someone would have gotten them and moved them or used them. But they work. They probably all rusted out now. But at one time, I'm the one that put them there along with some of his campaign material. So that's down in the sub-basement. But, and in the kitchen, his kitchen was in the middle, a little small, while we're here. Right there where you're standing is where he kept a, he had like a big, large book case, and he had his Purple Heart, a couple Purple Hearts, and scrap metal, where he had jumped on the grenade when he was in the military and saved a company of men. I asked him why did he jump on the grenade. He said he led the men to that foxhole, and when the grenade was thrown in, he felt the responsibility of saving their lives, and he jumped on it himself and got a Purple Heart for that. So, and that was the first time I saw scrap metal. I'm sorry?
Was that the Vietnam War?
I'm not sure what war he fought in, but you have a picture over there in his military uniform. So I don't know exactly what year, but that was the first time I seen scrap metal that had come out of someone.
Wow, that's incredible. And then we've said that this was he had a small kitchen.
This was more the kitchen area where we would sit. He had a small table here, and we talk and we sit, and we often have a glass of milk or something like that in this room. So
a glass of milk.
Yeah, a nice glass of milk after a long day. And so he very rarely came this far back.
Okay.
Because it was I think a door was here or something was here, if I recall right. And it was a porch out there that actually he didn't like it very much because it didn't seem safe to him.
Right, exactly.
And they eventually took it down.
Yep.
So this is, and of course the basement door to take you down to that sub-level basement. And that's a heck of a feature. I've never been in a house with a sub-basement. This is the only house.
I went to one in Bolton Hill that had that too, and it seems like these giant houses during the era they were built were probably coal heated. And so they kept a whole sub-basement that they would just fill with coal because they had to fill all of these stoves and heat the whole house with these high ceilings. And, you know, each of these giant houses had a whole section that was for the servants and a whole section that was for the family. And as we go upstairs, we'll see that there's two completely separate staircases so that the family and the service would never have to cross paths, like that the service had their own complete zone. And this section back here probably would have been more like a service parlor, so that they were at the, as they were serving dining room, coming up from the kitchen, that the service would have a space to hang out. So it kind of makes sense that that's the formal area for the owners.
That happened in most of the neighbor houses. What the houses were, we used to have houses behind, which are now interblock parks, but they were wooden houses, and a lot of the servants worked in the wooden houses in the back, and they would come in the back and service, take care of the house, and then they would go out and their family would be in that area. But they also coal most of the houses around here. In fact, my grandparents' house, they were coal, and the man used to bring the truck up, and it was like a shovel, and he would just throw the coal down, and you had to come by. My grandfather would take a couple shovels and put it in it. The coal kept these houses warm. Yeah. I mean, my house is colder now than it was when it was cold, and that's how they were. They would just go from house to house and drop the coal off, put it down the chute, and the people would come and take it.
Through your basement window.
Through the basement window on the side. They would shoot right on down.
The home I was living in had that's the way we heated the entire house too.
That's it. And it was warm too.
Either coal or you had to make a wood fire.
I was amazed when I was doing some of the just initial research on this house to discover that this house was owned by Black families since the 1920s, and that was the total norm in this neighborhood, that this was kind of like the Harlem of Baltimore City, where it was just the heart and soul of Black culture and enormous economic diversity because of segregation, that it was Black doctors and lawyers, but also Black working men and women, all living together in that sort of mixed economic culture.
And it was all West Baltimore. It wasn't. Now we're cut up into different neighborhoods, but at that time it was West Baltimore. Pennsylvania Avenue is where our commercial was. It's where the market was. You would go over to Pennsylvania Avenue, get whatever you want, bring it back. And it was all West Baltimore. It wasn't, different neighborhoods. So,
for sure.
Definitely.
I love that picture of Congressman Mitchell. He seems like he was a really fashionable guy. Was he a fashionable guy?
That is very fashionable. In fact, I learned a lot from him about dressing. I used to watch him every day. He was always impeccably dressed. And that picture was in the living room over the fireplace or the mantel over that setting. It was a very large picture. And it's the same picture that hung in the his committee room that he chaired on Capitol Hill. In fact, I forgot who he told me painted the picture, but it was a painting of him, done very well too.
Beautiful, beautiful picture. Should we go upstairs? Let me show you those fancy double staircases, and we can check out some of the inner workings of his home. It's going to be dark here for a minute because we're going through an unlit area. This is the service stair at the back, but we'll go up the front stair because it has a little bit more light. Yeah.
Yeah, he never. This was all kind of closed off.
Okay, so you would really move. You would move into the. You would move straight into the parlor and really move through that space more.
Too much.
Probably. So as we go up this grand spiral stair, this was the family stair at the front of the house. And even as you go up here, all the ceilings have incredible moldings and these tall doorways. Elegance is definitely the key word. So I assume that this was like his main personal living floor because there was a nice bathroom on this level and that sort of thing. Did you ever enter these spaces?
Sometimes. I came up here mainly when he first bought the house, and then like I said, he was extremely private, and he had a group of us up here one time, and he had not really used this. I don't know if he used this as his bedroom originally or what, but whoever purchased the house after he lived here kind of rearranged and did some different things here.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not sure. No, this room he called the pink shirt room in the back. And he named that after one of the guys that was helping us campaign. And we were sitting up here one day and he said, "This is I'm naming this room the pink shirt room." So and whenever we would talk about something and he would mention his house, I said, well, where did that happen? He said, right near the pink shirt room. I knew exactly what he was talking about.
And I'm just amazed that like every room in this house has an elegant marble fireplace, every single room. And you could tell that was, just one of the key elements of making this house stand apart. Yeah, so I assume this was his dressing room.
Yeah.
Since it's got the built-in closets and everything. Juan, did you want to tell us a little bit more about the process of restoring this? Like how are you going about doing the fundraising? What do you see this place being eventually?
Well,
what's the vision?
We secured a bond bill. That's just the start.
Yep.
And every RFP that comes out, you send us, Kelly, cool stuff. So we're continually fundraising, and we're hoping to get some type of earmark.
Okay, great.
For sustainability.
Yeah. Sorry for the delay. We had a couple technical issues, and you will be up close and personal from here on out. So we were just talking with the Quinn Evans team a little bit about what it's going to take to make sure that the space is accessible and can really function as a public space and not just a private one.
Yes, so part of what we're working on is also looking at how to get ADA access into it, and part of that is going to be getting an elevator into the building, and that's going to be during phase 2. Because of the different levels that Jennifer had mentioned, the elevator actually will need to get to multiple places in the building, and we'll talk through that as we start going up and down the steps of getting to the front and the back of the house. So in addition to accessibility issues, there's also some sustainability concerns that we're going to be incorporating into the design recommendations. One of the things that you'll notice about these lovely windows is that they are single paned. So one of the things we'll be looking at is how can we incorporate storm windows, either interior or exterior, into the building so that we can get improved energy performance on the windows. So once the building is heated, that heat can stay inside the building.
I think next room back is Congressman Mitchell's bathroom. I love this 70s, 80s feel with the raised tub and the incredible bay window that you can just imagine taking like the luxurious bath. This house is set on a really high piece of land in Baltimore, so the views outside the windows to the park to the city as a whole are just really awesome, and you feel like you're in a very special place when you're here. I think we lost the rest of the team. Let's see if we can find them, because I bet Delegate Branch is sharing some very good stories that we should be catching in on. Right, let's see where they went.
Let me turn the light on so you got it.
So one thing I noticed is that he seems to have there's lots of political history books everywhere. Was he a big reader?
Big time. Yes, definitely a big reader.
And it seems like he was, really interested in like the legacy that he was a part of as a politician. That's just me placing these stories. And so I'm curious, like, what were his highest values? Like, what was really important to him?
He read many books about different things. He knew a lot of authors, so he would read their books. But he did most of his political work. He was always reading and having to do with bills and working on projects like 24-hour fast project, which was crazy. Not eating for 24. I didn't realize how hard that was until I did it with him. And then he walked to march to Washington, walking all the way to Washington, D.C. So he worked on projects. He was always involved in something for his district.
What do you think his most important lasting legacies are? Like, when you think of like the impact that Congressman Mitchell had, what would you say if you were going to tell somebody who doesn't know him at all?
The main thing I think that he did that people are not aware of is if you're looking at the 8A set-aside program for the Small Business Administration, which sets money aside for contractors that are minority, small and disadvantaged, and women. That was his baby. He put that into law to make that happen, which I'm sure most people don't know. They benefit from the 8A program and not really know why or how it even happened.
Right, that before that time, there was no protection or guarantee that government programs like SBA, Small Business Administration, were going to benefit people with any sense of equity. I know, like, Wanda, you're very into agriculture and that sort of thing. and my family's also a farm family, and I'm sure we got access to so many things that your family didn't have access to. And so really thinking about that through the civil rights era, the way leaders like Congressman Mitchell looked at each aspect of government and started that movement to make sure that it wasn't all just for white families, that black families and women who were doing it on their own also could benefit from these government structures.
And he was one of the founding members of the Congressional Black Caucus. So he was one of the founding members of that organization that's existing today.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, because when I came to the Hill, it was because I was from a farm.
Right. Yep.
And they sat us down in that tea room and told us what our responsibilities were as black citizens. So, and I'm still doing that.
Still
today.
doing it. Like, it can have a huge impact, those sorts of legacies.
He was against building that, never forget it. He was against building that super maximum security prison.
Yes.
And so we were riding one day and he said, stop right here. And we stopped right where they were going to build it. He got out and he told me to come back and pick him up. I didn't believe.
Yeah.
You know, I pulled off, but I didn't far from him. And he stood there and protested alone. Took a sign out of his trunk and he stood there and held the sign up. People would blow the horn and stop and talk. And he was very popular, extremely popular. And I was telling I think you, that it would take him an hour just to go to the Mondawmin Mall because people would stop him on his way in. He could barely get out of the parking lot to get into the store if it was a nice day. And once he got inside of the mall, everybody would recognize him. Everybody would want to talk with him, and some more than others were touching on him, touching him to get his attention. So, and one of the things being with him, I would stop people from. It becomes annoying when you're trying to talk to someone, someone's tapping you on the back. But it would take him at least a half hour to get to the store, and then another half hour getting back to his car.
And you've had such a long, illustrious political service career as well. What role do you think?
Because of him.
And how did that happen? Like, how did he move you to dedicate your life to something?
Well, after working for him, he thought that I had a very good personality and ability to do government work and to help people, because that's what I did. Working for him, and I did the same working for his nephew. So I had a very good ability to get things done. And he became a vacancy in my district where I live, which was in his district. And he suggested that I run for it. And I did. And he said that he would support me, and he did. And the rest history, here it is, 28 years later. I've served well, and I'm retiring after this year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so
Congratulations.
thank you. So it's been a great ride, and it was all because of him that it happened. And he told me one thing. He said, well, now that you're elected, I want you to do this for me. I said, what's that? He said, I want you to go there and don't be like the rest. I want you to take care of business. He said, the word business is, you can use it in two different ways. He said, the other way is busyness. He said, that I don't want to see you do. He said, while you're there, you handle business, not busyness.
That's excellent advice.
Yeah,
excellent advice.
Of that word in that sense, but he taught Latin as well as political science up at Morgan, so he was very good with words. Would give me a word every day.
Wow.
And I forget it the next day.
But it's in there somewhere, I bet. And so if you think about this house restored and open for, retreats or meetings like he would host here, and really sharing that legacy. Do you think that that's something that he would appreciate?
He told me when I got in government, he said, look, he said, if you do something, you help somebody, don't look back to think they're going to thank you. He said, just move on to the next person. He said, because oftentimes people don't think to thank you, or they just don't thank you.
Yeah.
He said, so don't hold it against anybody. So he probably would be honored that you would do it. But if he was here, he may say, I don't know. But he comes from leadership. He comes from a family, a political family. Yeah. So his brother, who was called the 101st Senator, the 2 nephews that served well. So, you know, and Clarence Mitchell Jr.'s wife, of course, Juanita Jackson Mitchell, who was a fighter. So he comes from a line of fighters for this community, and they all served. And at one time we had someone serving on every level of government in this country. His brother was served on the United Nations for the U.S. Parren was in Congress. His nephew Michael was in the council. His nephew Clarence was in the State House in Annapolis. So that family, I mean, they were all movers and shakers, and of course Juanita Jackson Mitchell, who was a fabulous freedom fighter.
Incredible.
Yeah. So
incredible spirit.
That the family in itself is, but he became the matriarch.
Yeah.
He became the man.
I like that. Do we want to go up one more level, or should we go downstairs and wrap up with Arlene? I'd like to hear just a little bit more of like that legacy of excellence in the community, and what restoring all of these important landmarks and mean to her neighborhood.
Yeah, let's head back there.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, we're using a lot of time, but there's too much to talk about. It's all really interesting.
On the way down, I'll bring out the stairs.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and shine the light so everyone can see it.
Be careful.
So one of the things you can see is that, so right now they're going up the steps to go down the steps. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm trying to get some of it. Maybe? No? Maybe there? Nope. Okay, so we're going up steps. Well, trust us. Up steps, then down steps, then up some more steps.
Delegate Branch was mentioning how, you know, the whole Mitchell family lived in this part of town, as well as an unbelievable number of other leaders that are this incredible legacy that remains in this neighborhood. And I know that you're an amazing champion of making sure that all of these treasures stay with us until we can see them all return to their jewel-like status. And I'm just wondering, you know, like, when you've been at something for so long, what keeps you passionate to make sure that we all understand this history?
I think it's the community and the people, and the fact that I grew up in this neighborhood. And my great-grandparents had the house, and they passed it to my parents, and there were family homes. You had like different generations in there, like my aunt and my grandmother and everything. So after I got out of school, I wanted to come back to this neighborhood. Plus I was involved with the community association over here in getting some of the houses rehabbed. One of the problems we have is a lot of our houses are owned by older people, and when their children get to that age, they don't want the houses, and a lot of times they have their own houses, so they don't want it. And that's why we have so many vacants over here. But when I grew up, every house was occupied. I could walk from here down to my church, which was St. Pius on Schroeder and Evanston. My grandmother knew every step I took. which way I went and that I was at the church, I told somebody we had our own ATD. You know, we had our own security system because we would watch everybody, and you would say hi to so and so, whatever, and help, you know, seniors and help other people in the community. So this was always a warm place, safe place for me. So
it's wonderful. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here today. And maybe we can close out with Miss Wanda. Maybe Wanda, could you share with us if people are inspired and want to get involved? What's the vision for what the future of making this project happen?
Okay, my number is 410-299-1535. If you go to historicupton.com, you'll be able to reach us. We all live in the community. The Upton Planning Committee has a board of directors, but we all live here. Okay.
So thank you so much for being with our live today, and I hope you enjoyed getting to see the incredible Parren Mitchell House and all the amazing team that are involved in restoring it.